2000squared.com.
Our final speaker then is a Benedictine monk and the former headmaster of Downside School, Dom Antony Sutch.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I believe the next debate of Intelligence Squared is Don't Eat Animals. I feel very much that I'm in the Colosseum here, being devoured by everybody, and everybody else is devouring each other. I find this extraordinary. And may I also say that the comment about no women on the panel, why do people think I dress like this? I'm delighted not to have written a book or be a journalist or a columnist or a TV personality. Otherwise, I would have gone through what no doubt all these feel they've been through, a mangle machine. But I don't really think, I'm terribly sorry here, it's just my quiet monastic foolishness, but I don't actually think anybody's answered the question or even looked at it. I can't quite stop bashing Christians. If the bashing is legal, fine, why not? All I wish when people bash Christians is that they get a greater accuracy and knowledge of what they are bashing. And an innocent example, not a vicious one, those I keep at home in my black book. The New York Times, when Benedict XVI was installed as Pope, if that's the right word. The New York Times wrote beautifully about it, saying, the Pope was then handed the symbol of his office, the crow's ear. I thought, poor old crow having its ear taken, and no doubt the Vatican being attacked for another outrage of cruelty to animals. I find this utterly extraordinary. I also find it extraordinary that people are unkind enough to think that Christianity is not trying to think and deal with justice and honesty. Many mistakes, and I'll come to that in a minute. But we're producing, or trying to produce, a Christian world, perhaps wrongly. But my trump card, carry on bashing us for two reasons. One, as I read in the Gospel on Sunday for All Saints, the Beatitudes, the last was, blessed are you when people abuse you and persecute you and speak all kinds of calumny against you on my account. Rejoice and be glad. Well, that's certainly the only way I'm going to get to heaven. And also, don't we believe that the blood of the martyrs is the seed of our faith? I'm not worried about being bashed. Carry on. But take, it honestly. Don't just throw out insinuations. I have been bashed twice, and I don't really like being bashed physically. One was in Edgware Road at 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon on the Underground. I wish the Underground had been running today, and I might have got bashed again. But I was given a real handing over. Two drunken people didn't like me or my Christianity or whatever it was. I don't know. The other bashing, which I loved, was standing by some traffic lights in Berkeley Square on not a very nice day, and a large Rolls-Royce, chauffeur-driven, appeared, and I was waiting for the lights to go red so I could cross, and the window went down, and a child of about 8 with a pump water gun just went boom. And a voice from behind him said in a very feminine, rather beautiful way, an unfair world, Father. I delight in all of this. This is the fun of life. This is the cut and thrust that should not be too personal. And let me say, and I believe it very strongly, Britain remains a tolerant country. I don't care what anybody says. I have certainly experienced that, and most of the people I talk to have experienced that. And as a tolerant country, it is not anti-Christian. It may disagree and argue about certain Christian beliefs, but it is not anti. I must admit, though, my two on the same side of me have made me slightly nervous, so there are one or two. I know that there is a world of political correctness, but in my humble opinion, most people think they're utterly dotty. And I mean, nobody really laughs at them, and the nurses in my little hometown of Beccles all wear crosses. Could I give it to them as a fashion item? And the stewardesses wear crosses, and the nurses said, "I'll pray for you, dear." Why not? It's like, you can't walk under a tree in case a conker falls on you. And then the other day in a hotel, it said, "Hot pipe. Beware, it may be hot." Well, if it's a hot, anyway, this is not anti-Christian, this is just dotty. What about non-Christian faiths? The papal visit, and there was one or two incidents, there were, anyway, never mind. But the Pope met the representatives of all the other faiths. And Dr. Assan and Chief Rabbi Lord Sachs welcomed him. And there was a common cause of committed believers. They're not anti-Christian. So other faiths aren't anti-Christian except possibly the extremes. And what did the Pope say at the end? As followers of different religious traditions, working together for the good of the community at large, we attach great importance to this side-by-side dimension of our cooperation, which complements the face-to-face aspect of our continuing dialogue. On a parish level and a personal level, I have no anti-Christian feeling. And indeed, a friend was telling me about these nativity plays that are to be banned, supposedly. In Birmingham, a head mistress, I think a head teacher, you have to call her, was going to ban it. And there was a petition signed by every single parent, including Muslims, Sikhs, and atheists, to say, "Don't be ridiculous." How can that be anti-Christian? We're getting to the point where the media have the headlines, and we all say, "Oh, well, it must be the case." Let me tell you what is happening. We're beginning to pigeonhole people. We're becoming a tick-box society, so that if somebody says you can't pray, "Oh, we're all anti-Christian." Nonsense. What happened to me years ago at Ealing, that lovely place full of Roman Catholics? I had been out to dinner. I think I've told this story to some of you before. And it was an old boy of my school, so he was paying, so I chose the restaurant. And it was one of those restaurants in which the menu comes and only the person paying knows the price. So I went for lobster to begin with. God has a sense of humor, even if non-Christians don't. Anyway, some of this poured down the front of my habit, so I returned to the monastery shamefacedly rather late, 2 in the morning. I hadn't got permission from the abbot, and I knew that Father X, who will remain nameless, who was meant to be in charge of dry cleaning, would go to the abbot and say, "Father Antony was out last night, had lobster." So I went down to a local dry cleaning place and had a half-hour conversation as to whether it should be cleaned as a military uniform or a ball gown, because there was no place for a monastic habit. We're pigeonholing people. It's ridiculous. I have to admit that one of the things that worries me more than anything else is Christians getting at Christians. But if you're a Christian getting at a Christian, Indeed, it is horrendous, but you're not anti-Christian because you're a Christian yourself. So we just push that rather grandly aside. What is going on? We are living in a society that is bashing everybody. Indeed, it was lovely to read in the Telegraph the journalist who bashed the people bashing the Pope because they themselves were bigoted. Fine. Let's not be silly. We're not anti-Christian. As the Archbishop said, 71.4% claim to be Christian. Who am I to say they're not? Who am I to say that this country isn't tolerant, isn't generous in giving to others, wouldn't want to be loved and to love, to have the commandment that Christ brought us, and would want to do unto others as they would have done unto themselves? We are not anti-Christian. We are bashing them, and I'm delighted, because that's the only way Christians will look at themselves occasionally and say how utterly foolish we are to be doing this, that, and the other. So although I don't agree with Christianity being, as my two fellow colleagues here say, I believe it's a wonderful religion, but I have to agree with them that England is not anti-Christian. And please stop bashing each other, just bash the Christians. Thank you very much.